everyone. Today is another update of the current COVID situation here in Ontario, Canada. My name is Eni Hardock, and I'm the founder of the United Networks for Growth and also a local business networking group that I've been running for 22 years called Uxbridge Networking Group. And here with me is Eni Oszlai, and she's the musical financial doctor. And she's also the top RBC's specialist in Canada, financial specialist in Canada. And she's been doing the research and giving us the update bi-weekly, and we appreciate her time and all the information that she provided to us. Welcome, Annie.
Thank you so much, Annie. I really appreciate your introduction and this opportunity to provide update to your network as well as to my network, because it can be a little bit overwhelming, especially at the beginning there was a lot of changes, almost daily changes, both on the provincial and the federal level, and then even though it started to calm down as the stages opened up, and then suddenly the school start happened, and now again we are having all kinds of changes happening, and even while we are having this interview, a throne speech is going on. So there's plenty to discuss today. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. I know that today, besides the COVID statistics that you're going through, and important is the school board's response, right? It's now September, the schools are reopening, and we like to hear the updates. And also there's the Ontario government's COVID-19 fall preparation plan. And also the federal government also coming with their COVID response plan, and how we as a community to support local businesses.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for summarizing today's agenda. So welcome everybody, and thank you again for tuning in. So let's just briefly cover the current statistics and where we are right now. And again, this information is not to deter you or scare you, whatever else. This is just, information only, and then, take it as you understand it and do your own measures subsequently. Okay, so we are here to provide you information, and that's what we do today. So, when we were talking about, the COVID updates, in the summer, we had a constant better and better news all the way till mid-August, and then suddenly the schools started to open up and things have changed dramatically. So today's message is very different from where we were even mid-August. Let's talk about it. Specifically, the two largest provinces by population, which is Ontario and Quebec, are actually reporting close to 500 new daily infections over the past 4 days. Now, this is significantly higher where we were. So if you look at even Canada-wide, the average over the past week was 1,123 new daily infections, which is significantly up compared to mid-August, which was only 380 Canada-wide. So now we understand where we are compared to where we were even just a few weeks ago. So to date, there are 146,663 confirmed cases of COVID infections in Canada. And if you look at the early stages, back in the beginning of spring, the population that was majorly affected by it was the elderly, so the 80 years and above. However, as of mid-August, this has completely changed, and basically as of mid-August, it was the population under the age of 30 who were the major components for the majority of the new infections. And in recent days, especially since school started in September, it's actually the 20 years and under who are posing a large number of the new infections. So let's just look at what happened since the school start. So basically, what happens is we actually have 141 cases across the province. So I'm talking Ontario. So basically 116 schools are currently reporting COVID cases, which is approximately 2.4% of the publicly funded schools. in the province, and specifically two schools actually had to be closed down temporarily, one in Ottawa and one in Pembroke. So you might recall that, before the school start, we talked about, the government's response in terms of what happens, if there's infection and what will be the emergency response. And sure enough, it's already happening. But actually, school boards went a little bit past that, because you might remember that we discussed that by mid-August, parents were required to make a decision for the elementary school whether they want to have their children educated in person or online. And so school boards now pivoted as a response to what's going on, and they actually have allowed families to make a new decision if they chose so, to either put their children from online moving into in-person or vice versa. And now this is going to be as is, whatever they are choosing, till the end of the calendar year. So as opposed to what they thought would be, a decision mid-August for the first term, now it's a new decision that was given to families. However, it will go all the way till the end of the calendar year. Now, what is very interesting as well, that even on a university level, we have, interesting news. Specifically, the Western University made headlines in the last couple of days because of the high cases that they had. And interestingly, they were able to trace them back to larger social gatherings. So this is now obviously, and obviously the analytics in terms of, where the cases are coming from. And so since the cases are really on the rise Canada-wide, and especially, in Ontario and in Quebec, and because the majority of the infections are occurring amongst the younger generation, so even though, they are saying that, the younger people don't necessarily have health complications and so on, but because the virus is very contagious, it can spread easily and jump easily to the groups who are more vulnerable, either the elderly or the health compromised individuals. And so this is where the government, both the Ontario and the federal government, have made decisions to make changes, immediate changes. Okay, any questions so far?
Actually, when you say that two of the school have to close, are they in high school or elementary?
No,
What level?
no, they are actually elementary schools. Yeah, good question. Yeah. You remember with the high schools, the model is basically a hybrid. It's half half like part-time in person, and then the other day it's online. And so the classes are basically parted into two. So one half is attending in person, and then the same day the other half is doing online, and then the other day they are changing, and so on. Good question though. Okay, so let's go on to, the government program. So specifically, what happened, with the Ontario government just recently. So you might recall how we discussed that, when Ontario entered stage 3, and it was a staggered entry depending on different, districts. But once finally, all of Ontario was in stage 3, basically the social gathering limits have been as follows, 50 inside and 100 outside. And so I remember that, many people from my circle, they were finally happy. Okay, at least, good weather, we can have outdoor wedding. And while, it's not necessarily like humongously large, but at least, we can have 100 people and gatherings and some concerts and so on. But, what happened recently in terms of the surge of the new cases, the Ontario government had to pull the triggers in terms of having a new, they call it the COVID-19 fall preparedness plan. And the first initiative was, which actually is effective as of this past weekend, that they changed the gathering limits. So this is specifically for social gatherings. So it's 10 indoors and 25 outdoors. So it's a significant drop compared to where we were. Now, this is not applying to restaurants or venues or whatever else. This is more for the private social gatherings, okay? Also, something that is very, very new is that they just launched their flu vaccination program. So Ontario has invested quite heavily to make sure that they are able to offer flu shots for their residents if they choose so, just to reduce the burden on flu-related complications from the healthcare, since they are expecting a surge in COVID, and they want to make sure that they are able to address the COVID situations versus complicating it with flu, since the symptoms are so similar, right? And talking about the symptoms being so similar, obviously, if you are experiencing any of the symptoms, they are recommending that you are going for testing. And it's the same for school. If you have, any of the symptoms, they're recommending that you are not going to school, but rather you're going for testing first. And so this is a new initiative as well. And they literally just announced it as early as today. And this will take effect as of this Friday, that Ontario begins the COVID-19 testing also in pharmacies. So there were huge lineups, in the current testing facilities, and now they want to, ease that burden so that the pharmacists will be able to do testing as well as of this Friday. Now, there will be additional plans from the province of Ontario with regards to their COVID-19 fall preparedness plan. But they said that they will be revealing these on a day-by-day basis. So in the coming days, just watch the news and see what happens. And obviously, I will be also helping posting those. Any questions on this so far?
Oh, that's good. That's really good information. Yeah.
Very good. Okay, so let's move on to the federal plan. So as we discussed, the throne speech from the Governor General is actually happening while we speak. But I can also share a few things that I already peeked in and listened to. And there will be obviously a major announcement at 6:30 from our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at 6:30. So I certainly encourage anyone and everyone to listen in. It will be obviously broadcast on all news channels and online as well. But let's look at what we know so far. So what we know so far is that the US-Canada border will remain closed at least until October 21st for leisure travel. This has been always extended and extended and extended, and now this is the new extension just to really, contain the infections between the two countries. As we know, the US is very in a very dire situation actually right now. At the same time, based on the throne speech that I, picked up so far, what the government is planning to do is creating additional 1 million jobs, as well as having a plan for women in the economy to help women to enter the workforce. And they really want to focus on prevention than needing to go into a second wave. So let's really look at what we are talking about here. So the federal government actually signed a new deal to buy up to 72 million doses of COVID vaccine, which should be available at the second half of 2021. But this is already the fifth deal the Canadian government signed with regards to the COVID vaccines in recent weeks. So there's a total of total of 154 to 262 million vaccine doses. Now, knowing that Canada has a little bit less than 40 million citizens, or residents, I should say, then they look at it and they say, okay, obviously these vaccines are from different companies and different effectiveness, different strategies from the vaccines on itself in terms of how they are working, but they really want to make sure that whoever wants to be vaccinated is available for them. And like I said, they are hoping that, the human trials are going successful and sort of the vaccines become available in the second half of next year. So just that we understand the price tag of all of this, the government already spent $78 million on it. So this is a huge investment from the federal government to protect Canadians. In addition, obviously, the government is also focusing quite a bit on the prevention and the treatment of COVID. So with regards to the prevention, so now it's not just obviously the federal, but the various levels of government, including municipal and obviously provincial, are maintaining that, physical distancing, wearing a mask, hygiene, especially hand hygiene, need to be maintained. Because as it is right now, and this is current data, from 10 infected individuals, 14 new will happen. So it's a very rapid expansion rate in terms of infections. So what it means that because in Quebec it's so rapid that Quebec actually already declared a second wave. So Ontario is not there yet, just yet. but they are really worried that if this is continuing, then we can have more than 5,000 daily new infections by October, according to the projections. Again, these are projections. This is not hard facts, but based on the current number and what the recent weeks have brought. So that's what they are projecting up. So Dr. Theresa Tam, who happens to be Canada's chief public health officer, she basically said that Canada is really at a crossroad. So depending on Canadians' behavior, we might need to have additional localized lockdowns. So not the same type of Canada-wide lockdown that we experienced, in the spring, but localized lockdowns. So, looking at the Australian model, what they have been doing, they had to, lock down certain districts and so on for a number of weeks just to contain the infection. So, they are not ruling it out, but it really depends on what the next little while is going to bring. Any questions so far?
Actually, how does it, the plan, how do you execute it, like down to the municipal level? Like even with all these purchases or vaccines, are they from Canada or it's outside?
Very good question. Very good question. So there are actually multiple companies, pharmaceutical companies, who are in the race of creating these vaccines. So these vaccines are actually coming from all over the world. There are runner-ups in England, runner-ups in Germany, US, and so on. So, and in Canada as well. So this is really from all over the world because they want to make sure that, there's no shortage. Good question though. Very good question. So let's go back to, what's happening in Canada, specifically with the economical aspect. So we know that, the economy suffered quite a bit, during the COVID lockdown. And that's why really no one wants to repeat, what the spring has brought, with the complete lockdown and everything else. But we also know that, even though the throne speech will be, a long-term vision of the government, at the end of the day, you need to have a budget for it. So the budget, and the numbers are probably going to come in the next couple of days. And just by listening to RBC's chief economist, today, there was a podcast that I was listening in from Craig Wright, even he's specifically saying that, the long-term plan cannot possibly be successful without the short-term plan being successful. And the short-term plan, quite frankly, is all about, maintaining the health of Canadians and, the prevention, vaccines, testing, and so on. And that will help also to, the economy to become a little bit more stable than as it is right now. Because even though April was really the low point, and since then, things started to improve, which also has shown on the stock markets right now. And I don't know if you're following the stock markets, but stock markets are always forward looking. And actually the stock markets are being very shaky in the last couple of days, again, because they are forward looking and they are looking at, okay, wait a second, infections rates are rising, and then there is a situation going on in the US, with the elections happening and everything else. So, so there's a little bit of uncertainty going on, right? And so it's really, really important that, the government is addressing those. What we know for sure that the CERB, which was a Canadian Emergency Response Benefit, is actually ending in the next couple of days. At the same time, we also know that certain industries have not been able to go back into full swing or go back at all. Restaurants are still extremely affected. And if you look at the entertainment industry, they have never really rebalanced in any shape or form. So from that perspective, what the government is announcing is an expanded employment insurance program and probably an extended childcare program, especially because childcare usually traditionally is, in the households, it's a female responsibility, but that again is preventing women to return to work. So really the details are expected in Trudeau's throne speech today. Everyone please tune in at 6:30. And let's see what that brings. Now, on that note, obviously the government also is expected to address environmental policies in addition to everything else. But if you really look at what's happening, so even though the economy started to rebalance and even housing markets started to come up and everything else, but now with the current uncertainty and given the fact how much the Canadian government already spent and went into deficit, and also looking at the factor that the Liberals currently are governing with a minority government, we know that whatever is their vision, the long-term vision, is needed to be supported by the opposition. So if there is no support that they are winning, then what we can expect is a non-confidence vote in the coming days or coming weeks, better to say, which can result in new federal elections. So do you now see how when we say that Canada is at crossroads, it's a multitude of topics that we can look at in terms of how Canada really is in front of a crossroad, because there are so many moving pieces. So, whatever happens in the coming days or weeks, that will really, determine going down, what comes to us. Any questions on this?
What I hear is all uncertainty.
Well,
this is really difficult, right? Like it's already gone through, like for me, I also have a children learning center, which if I did not pivot it, I wouldn't have survived for 6 months without being able to have students come to the locations, right? And then even when school restarted, the after school programs is a challenge, right? Because now would parents put their children in a different bubble than what their kids were going to school for, right? And the same with after school daycare programs. So it actually affects a lot of businesses. And it's a decision, I think, for business owners is to see, well, do they have hope to see it, like, to get back to that level, even for restaurants, right? If you have a second wave and it get down to, the number of people that can, even they might not have the indoor dining again, and that would be difficult, right? It just, it's really hard. For my experience, it's like I built my learning center for 10 years, right? It just that I was lucky to be able to pivot, but for other businesses that they might have years to build that business, and it just to make the decision whether to continue or not, but with all the uncertainty is very difficult. That's what
I agree with you. I agree. And you know what? It's funny that you mentioned this, because it looks like that RBC's chief economist is in full agreement with us. And Craig Wright specifically said in today's podcast that the government, the federal government, absolutely will need to address business needs as well, because so far their policies were more consumer based, but right now it's about time to provide policies to support businesses, because just as you said, Canada's backbone and economy is largely based on businesses, and especially the small to mid-sized businesses are accounting for over 90% of any businesses in Canada. So from that perspective, we need to look at in terms of what the throne speech brings, and hopefully, businesses will be supported as well. But that also brings a further responsibility to us as well in terms of how we can help businesses, right? So there are many, many ways to support businesses. You already might have businesses that you support because you're utilizing their services or products, or for instance, your clients were interested in continuing learning with you because they see the benefit and everything that you bring to their family and their children, and thankfully you were able to pivot and go online. So that's great, right? But what else can we do other than just supporting their services and products by purchasing them? So there are actually completely free options as well, such as writing a positive review that is now visible to other potential customers. You can tell about the business or service to friends and family. You can follow these businesses on social media, engage in their posts, give them a shout out, sign up for their newsletter. So there are many, many ways to support businesses that don't even cost a penny. So that's definitely something that we should all consider. And at the same time, for instance, what I have started to do over the past little while is to showcase my clients and my business partners including musicians, to help with their visibility and to increase their opportunity to connect with my network, to grow their business. So basically what I'm doing, and that's just my personal choice, is to do podcasts with them, which I then post on social media in several groups as well. These are just acts of good service, and why not, right? Now there's something else which is also new, and I'm really happy to announce it, that for instance, RBC has started to offer, as of this week, a robust 20% discount on income protection policies for essential services workers. I mean, know that list is very long. I mean, we have seen it from the government website. And the discount is a permanent offer. So this is not just during the COVID pandemic, but once it's given to you, it's given to you for life. So knowing that we already own 43% of the disability market, this is really showcasing how robust and good that solution is. So now, if you are if you're really concerned about your income, what if you have a medical event and you are unable to replace your income, then please speak with me, because this is the time to really start talking about it. And especially that now we are able to offer you this solution at a 20% discount. So that's definitely something I'd like to really encourage anyone and everyone to reach out to me to start a discussion. And in addition, basically, RBC is also lowering the price of the life insurance solutions to make it really more affordable to the public, so that they can take advantage of this offer and help protecting their loved ones and their vision for their family, for their businesses, for their future. So therefore, again, I'd like to really invite anyone and everyone to reach out to me if you have any questions at all, what we discussed so far in this podcast, as well as if you just want to discuss, your business plan or financial strategies. And I'm happy to provide a complimentary consultation.
Wow, great. Yes, I really, I have two different networks, a business network, and I always encourage businesses to collaborate, and especially at this time, right? Because we complement each other and we can share the cost of business, or we actually make it win-win situation so everyone can continue to do business, right?
Absolutely.
That's the goal. It's more grassroots that we have to help out with each other.
I agree. Any further questions from me, Eni, today?
Wow, I look forward to what's happening in 2 weeks. What kind of updates, and then also we don't want, there's already economic uncertainty. And then if they add in all these political uncertainty, and it's really difficult, for businesses.
I agree. But see, that's exactly why it's so important to stay on news and really understand, what you can do as a business owner to stay on top, pivot, and get out of there. So to really move forward, right? It's just like, if you have a lake and the water is not moving over time, you can have that slimy green stuff growing on it. But once you actually put in a water fountain, not only is it beautiful to the eye, but at the end of the day, it starts moving, and then it's helping with the ecosystem. So similarly, if you're able to get a different view, then you might be able to actually pivot and take advantage of opportunities that otherwise might not have been obvious to you. And that's why I encourage anyone and everyone also to reach out to Eni, because as she mentioned, she has 2 different networks. One of them is the United Network for Growth, and the other one is the Oxbridge Networking Group. So you will be able to, take advantage of collaborating with other like-minded individuals and other businesses. But feel free to reach out to me as well, because as I mentioned, I'm happy to help you reviewing your business and provide you with a complimentary analysis and financial review as well. And at the same time, I also have a large network, so I'm happy to connect you as well.
Yes. See how we work together? We have different network, and we share with everyone. Yes. So it's very important to support your the local businesses and in your network, and that's how we can thrive even this time of adversity.
I agree. All right, so I'd like to thank you again for the opportunity to allow me to to speak to your network and provide the update. And, you know, again, everybody, please reach out to Eni Hardock, and please reach out to me. You can reach me either via Facebook, you know, Facebook Messenger, or you're welcome to call my cell, which is 416-543-6127. Again, it's 416-543-6127. And Eni, what's your best availability?
Annie, A-N-N-I-E, at uxbridge.com. That's where I live and where my business is. uxbridge.com. And if you see the post on Facebook, connect with me. And also if it's on LinkedIn, connect with me. I'm on LinkedIn. Eni Hardock.
Perfect. Thank you again. Bye.
See you in 2